Here with me, former Secret Service agent and former NYPD officer Dan Bongino. And Dan, I mean, we wouldn't be here today, right, if it hadn't been for Fusion GPS and some people deciding they wanted to gather some disinformation on the man who would become the next president of the United States?
Yeah, I mean, Trish, I can't say this enough. You know, how is this not the scandal of the century? You have an organization affiliated with Barack Obama, OFA, that now, on the record, we now know this is not speculation, shuttled money to Fusion GPS, who in turn bought fake Russian intelligence. And here's the critical point, Trish. As a former federal agent, this means a lot to me. Bogus Russian intel that made it to the President of the United States in the form of a presidential daily brief, made it to the FBI, and may have made it into FBI documents used to obtain warrants to wiretap Barack Obama's political opponents. Please explain to me again, reasonably, how this is not the political scandal of the century right now. I'm open to hearing it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the idea that, you know, the other side goes out and finances this dossier by Christopher Steele, who was at the time a respected intelligence officer, and somehow the Russians maybe knew this was happening, and they decide to feed a bunch of baloney to Christopher Steele, and then somehow our law enforcement takes that seriously enough that we wind up now having a special prosecutor. And Paul Manafort, look, there's no excuse for, if he did this, as they're alleging, hiding these payments years ago, but it has nothing to do with what the left has been accusing the president of all along. Dan, and that's this total disconnect. As Alan Dershowitz says, you know, this is the danger with these special prosecutions.
You know, in a constitutional republic, which we are, we target crimes, not people. We find a crime and we go after the people. We don't find the people and then go for the crime later on. That's clearly what's happening here. How do you look at this any other way? I mean, think about what happened today. This is going to be a major mainstream media, far-left hackery scandal. The fact that they arrested today essentially a fibber, a guy who lied to the FBI, and a guy who did some really bad business dealings before he joined the Trump campaign and into the campaign a bit, who he was fired by Donald Trump. Yet the fact that the Democrats paid, through an intermediary, Russian people and Russian intel people to get bogus intel on their political opponents and then used it to wiretap and potentially unmask them, I mean, the contrast is
Okay, so this is Watergate, in your view, on steroids?
Oh,
you heard the president say that the other day. By the way, hey, real quick, Dan, I just want to point out to the viewers, we have learned that Paul Manafort has been released on $10 million bail. He is under home detention, and the same with Gates, actually $5 million bail there with home detention. But again, Watergate on steroids, is this what we're living through?
It's Watergate on steroids and their morning Wheaties. I mean, Trish, again, you had the sitting president use intel financed by his own party to then get briefed by the IC community, which was then used potentially later on. We know it got to the FBI to target his political opposition. I mean, in Watergate, they broke into a hotel. In this, they broke into an entire information file a foreign government had of fake information on their political opponent. Don't worry, though. Nothing to see here. Move along, media.
Well, no, I mean, and that's the truth of the matter. So as we talk about Russia and we try to get to the bottom of that, and we need to, it's important, it's critical, certainly before the next election, we have to be asking these questions. And we have to be asking about what exactly the Russians were doing with this so-called dossier, feeding bad intelligence, and how is it that we effectively became vulnerable to that ourselves, turning that all on its head and now having a special prosecutor. Yeah.
We got played by the Russians. We were made fools of, and the Democrats and, frankly, some people on the Republican side, but not Trump, were part and parcel. We got played for fools.
Well, and perhaps we're still being played as long as this whole thing drags out. Dan Bongino, thank you so much.